Leave it an hour. We ready? Yeah. Welcome to the Afropolitan Podcast. Like we always love to say, because the brand new is unthinkable, we fight over the old. Over here at the Afropolitan Podcast, we are building the future of the progressive Black community. On the show today, I have a really, really special guest of honor. I have Mr. Obi Asika in the building. Please give a huge round of applause. That would be welcome, man.
Hey,
welcome.
man, it's good to be here, man. It's good to be here.
Like, I told you how, and when I said this to you when we saw, I don't think you understand what I mean by that.
Right.
So we connected over Clubhouse.
Yeah.
And you had the conversation where you came in and you just gave us like life lessons, right? When I tell you, my life was transformed. I was in Atlanta. My life was transformed and I was heading back the next morning.
Wow.
On the plane back, I just got on the laptop and I'll show you what I wrote just from when we're done. I'll show you. Because it was one of those things where you have so much huge respect in the industry. You cannot buy it. You've put in skin in the game. You were one of the first. Like, we've seen the journey come. Mm-hmm. And there was a way you said what you said in a matter-of-fact way, where it was like, yo, if like all of us were like, if we're not listening to Obi, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, because sometimes, peers talk to one another and there's ego, there's more ego, there's all of that. Yeah.
There's ageism
we're like,
as
if
well.
we're not listening to Obi, and Obi has seen it all, and he's telling us collaboration over competition, come together, rub minds, do all of that information sharing, who are you going to listen to? So, Obi, please, to get this started, please, can we talk about first where you were born and how you moved to London, and then we can transition from there.
Oh, for real? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, first of all, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Good to be part of the Afropolitan progressive community. Was that what you called it?
Yep, we're building the future of a progressive Black community.
I like that. I mean, that speaks to my worldview.
Yep.
I was born in Lagos, so we're the original Lagosians. Love to my friends and my brothers. Okay. I was born in Lagos. Then I grew up in the East, in Enugu.
No, I was born in Enugu.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Enugu is for me,
beautiful, calm city.
Beautiful city.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the best in the world. When I grew up in Enugu, we never wanted to leave the place.
Yep.
Going to Lagos was like, what are we going to Lagos to do?
Yep.
And even coming back, it was the same thing.
Rowdy, man.
Man, that was then. Imagine now, right? So Lagos was like, people were like the big noisy place, and Enugu was sedate and calm and green. Yeah. And you knew everybody, and so that's what that was growing up. And then I went to England when I was about 9, but even when I was in England, I was coming to Nigeria every year. Literally, almost. I think my parents were jacking me every holiday till I was about 13, 14. Then it became like once a year, but always deeply connected to here. Yeah. And then about 17, 18, after my A-levels, did a gap year in Nigeria. And that was like the first 3 months or 4 months I worked at the World Trade Center in Lagos.
Wait, what did you study in school?
I'm more on the arts side. So,
okay.
So I was like, my A-levels, I think, were English, history, and French.
Okay.
So
how many languages do you speak?
Oh, man, my languages are poor, man. My language should be much better.
Yeah.
I understand Igbo, obviously, but my spoken Igbo is weak, which is a very painful thing. I'm entitled bad. So
I always tell people, they're like, "Oh, do you speak about Igbo?" I'm like, when they kidnap me, I speak fluently.
Audio fella. No. I mean, the thing is that unfortunately for me, my parents spoke Igbo. I mean, I only found out my dad spoke Igbo when I was much older.
Okay.
Because he never spoke it to us, right? But my mom spoke Igbo all the time.
Yeah.
To her siblings, to everybody else, except really to us.
Yeah.
So I understand Igbo like 100 million%, but I just never had the confidence in terms of speaking because I never spoke.
Yeah.
But which is a pity, but my pidgin English is superior level. You know what I'm saying?
PhD level.
Oh, believe that. And I got my pidgin French and Spanish that I can get by in the cities of the world. Yep. As we have to.
Yeah.
And some people still think I speak Yoruba just because I know how to Kilo Shele Alpha. So we understand the language of the streets.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I read it because we do research and all our guests. How did it said you used to be DJ? You DJ like hella shows. Yeah. How were you able to do that while in school? Because I feel like a lot of us have, or at least a lot of us in the industry, have that. But back then, this was a while back, right? You were doing
it's like
the
you're
shows.
on my age,
Yeah,
man.
he's like, stop talking about my age. No, but in the sense, and there's a reason I'm asking this question because I have a theory. But how was it DJing? How did you get into DJing, and how did that
Well,
happen?
I mean, the thing is this, like I said, the music
Yeah.
is in the DNA. I mean, especially for me, you know, my mother's from a place called Owerri, Ebu Owerri. And, you know, the bongo high life is in our DNA.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest albums ever released out of Nigeria is an album called Ejogu by the Peacocks International, who
Okay.
are one of the big
Okay.
bands. And Ejogu's my grandfather.
Yeah.
So it was like a tribute album to him, but that had incredible songs on it. I mean, those guys did Eddie Kwanzaa, which is that's the theme song for New Masquerade. You know?
Okay.
Eddie Kwanzaa, that shit.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So I had that stuff around me all my life, and then obviously my father's side, I'm from Onitsha.
Yeah.
You know, the Ogene, the Iguota, that stuff is deep rhythm inside you. So, and then I come from a background where my parents were academics and intellectuals, deeply into arts and culture and music. So these things were just around me all the time. I mean, I remember one of my dad's best friends sitting me down at about 9 years old. He thought I was getting lost because he asked me what I was listening to.
At 9?
Yeah, he asked me what I was listening to.
Yeah.
And I'm hanging out with white boys in England, and I'm like, the Police, Dire Straits,
my God.
you know, Shaking Stevens.
Yeah.
He was horrified, man. He was upset. So he's like, what about Fela Kuti? And I was like, who? And he's like, no. So he made it a point that holiday to educate me on Fela Kuti. I mean, and because of him, my favorite Fela song for many years was a song called Gentleman.
Okay.
Which, you know,
And it'll be Gentleman.
yeah, he sort of put it straight down. That holiday was all about that song.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I was privileged. I was lucky because, you know, Fela is somebody that I believe is the epitome of really what came out of here, you know, at the real iconic level. You know, and I'm privileged to have seen him live a number of times and been that.
Oh. Thank you. So, let's transition to Storm 360 period.
Right.
How did that come about? And my specific... Actually, no. I told you there was a reason I asked about the DJ question. I have a theory that when you've DJed and DJed so many shows, you become very good at like understanding what the people want, what the people need. That you have this instincts where it might not be able to be studied. There might not be any research behind it, but you're able to understand what the people want faster than even companies that are throwing more dollars. Has that been your experience?
Well, I think it's like, I tell you what.
Yeah.
First of all, I mean, I started DJing probably around 84, 85. Right?
How old were you then?
I'm like 15, 16.
16, okay.
Right? And, you know, and I'm DJing really just for friends and parties and at home. I'm not DJing anywhere beyond that.
Yeah.
By the time I get to university, you know, because I was almost a promoter. So now I'm promoting club nights. I'm promoting club nights. And we're promoting club nights, then we decide to DJ the nights ourselves because we don't have to pay the DJ, right? And you know what? It's exactly
cost-cutting features,
you know
man.
what I'm saying, man? You know, when you have no money, you're gonna find your
Vertical
way.
integration.
That's exactly. So we're doing this, and we're making our flyers from like cutting out newspaper clips, and there was no social media to push everything.
True.
So you want to do the flyer, you have to hit the street, convince some girls,
Real street pavement.
get some girls to walk the streets for you, to push around, talk to the community. So we're doing that, and in doing that, and clearly one of the things you learn as a DJ is tempo, controlling the crowd, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and then of course being a promoter as well. So being a promoter is about being a people person, about being able to convince your people. And once you're really heavily into music, if you have friends that are heavily into music, you know that, you know, without even trying, they're trying to convince you about music. So I was always doing that. I was always like, man, have you heard this? Have you heard that? Have you heard this? And I'm probably still like that. You know, I'm not nearly like that as I used to be, but 15, 16, 17, I'll be in your ear about a record. And so that was very key. And then I connected with a lot of DJs here very early. I mean, I met Jimmy Jad in 86, right? That's a long time ago.
Jimmy Jad that we saw the other day.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's a
in
long
86.
86, man. I'm talking like a long time ago. Right? And I walked in and I'm casing him because I'm coming like a DJ in his store.
Wait, he was DJing since then?
He had his record store in Odo Street.
Yeah.
It's 86 or 88 in Odo Street, right? In Obalande, number 17. And, you know, he used to have the decks like around the tables. and he'd be making like maybe 4 mixtapes at the same time.
Yeah.
He has 2 junior DJs and he's overlooking them, and maybe we had to pay like $30 for a mixtape, which was like $1 million. It felt like $1 million then, right? And I walk in the first time, and if you've ever been a DJ, you know how it is. You're casing the joint. So I'm casing the joint. What's this guy really mixing? What's he playing? And I'm a pure hip hop head. Even though, yes, the R&B, the New Jack Swing, I was doing it, but I was much more hardcore on the hardcore side.
Yeah.
So I walk in there and he's playing, and I said to him after about 20 minutes of hanging around, I said, look, I need to get all these kind of tracks, hoping that he wouldn't have most of them. Because I had them in the car, but he didn't know that, right? Yeah. And he's like, he was even happy that I heard some of those records, and he had it like maybe 70%. Yeah. And I had the rest of that. I was like really impressed. I was like, okay, so this guy's actually for real. Yeah. Yeah, so we've been friends since that day. Wow. I mean, and Jimmy is the realest person there has ever really been in this music industry. And we've done a lot over the years, so it was, for me, it's like if I think about the DJ community and their impact on pop culture here, it's been enormous. I mean, if you look at Jimmy, I don't have to talk about that. Yeah. But what you might not know is Howie T, our friend who died last year, Howie T was a partner with a guy called GMG, right? GMG is Greg Fiberesima. Yeah. These guys used to DJ in the early 90s. My club was called Enter the Dragon in 91. They were DJs there. That was Storm's first club in Lagos. And Jimmy was DJing one side. They were DJing the other side. And Howie passed last year, which is, may rest in peace. But Howie's the guy that discovered P-Square. Yeah. Right, as on golden terms, and he discovered them and he managed them and he brought them to prominence. Of course, they have incredible talent. Jude Ogene, the brother, really led that process, but that's the connection. Greg is also the sister of Peace Fiberesima, the founder of the Amar Awards, and Greg is a co-conceiver of that concept as well. So if you just think about that, between Jimmy, Howie, and Greg,
the whole ecosystem,
right? And I'm a DJ, by the way. So we're kind of we DJ. I speak for the DJs. There's a guy called Bola Fresh Wave. If you're in Lagos,
what was your DJ name though?
DJ Mr. C.
DJ Mr. C.
Before Big Daddy Kane. Okay. Because Kane's DJ was Mr. C. And I found out. And I was like, oh my God. But his was the double E. Mine was just a C.
I'm a lawyer if you need me to talk to him.
I wouldn't mind some of the royalties.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. So then how can we talk about the transition to Storm 360? And was it always Storm 360?
No, it wasn't.
How did it transition into the label format?
Yeah, well, the thing is that, even from day one, we were doing that.
And why is the name Storm?
Well, the name Storm comes from, if you work it out, our first logo, which I still have somewhere, which was sketched, and some kids sketched it for us. And even the last logo, the logo basically is a shield, right? Yeah. Okay, and a fist, which you may not work out, but it's a black fist holding a bolt of lightning in the shield. So it's black power. Yeah. It's straight up. And the name Storm came from Ororo, the X-Men, right? The black woman who's actually the leader of the X-Men. Yeah. And so that's really the inspiration. So it's like Thor, the hammer of God. But so if you're black, it's Shango. Yeah. At the same time, the Igbo is Amadioha. Yeah. So Storm is all about that.
Wow.
It was intentional. It wasn't even slightly left or right. I mean, we know exactly what we were talking about. And things like Public Enemy, people like this are inspiring us, NWA, and coming with that kind of mentality. 88, 87. We're coming out of that, and Rakim and Big Daddy Kane, and listening to that. That's the energy, right? Yeah. That's why I say it's the hip-hop transition to Afrobeats, right? Because at that time, the music that was here, there was a lot of guys, Mandators, Alex O, Alex Zito, Blackie, who's like my brother. But the sound was pop. It was tinny. It was very pop. It was very sort of commercial. Yeah. There was no hard edge to it. So we weren't feeling it at all. Yeah. We were like, nah, man, it's not going to work. This is actually quite whack. Yeah. Right? So the question then becomes, what are we going to do to change it up? Yeah. And that's part of what we did with Jimmy even. We first started as doing the club, Enter the Dragon. That's the first thing Storm ever did here.
Why Enter the Dragon?
I kind of remember why the name was Enter the Dragon. I think there was a club we used to go to in London. I used to go to London called the Dragon. Right? So it's Enter the Dragon. It's a big movie.
And where was the club located?
It Western House, Broad Street, right?
Where's that? VI?
That's on Broad Street in Lagos Island.
Lagos Island, okay.
The building's still there. It's like an 18-story building, and it's called Western House. It's pretty owned by the Western Region government.
Okay.
So there was a Chinese restaurant on the 8th floor, which was the entire floor, literally, both sides, both wings. So it could take about 400-500 people, depending, right? And, they just see these kids, and we're like, yeah, so the Chinese guys who were thinking, they were kind of yapping us, who these kids, they were big boys. The guy was even telling me how I make so much money in my importing my fish or whatever it was he was doing. The restaurant is just a side business.
Yeah.
That whole thing. I don't know, I was 21 or something. And he's like, so how are you sure that we should even open up the whole place? And I'm like, look, let's just
try it.
I said, we've done our thing.
Yeah.
I knew we had deployed flyers that had never been seen like that in Nigeria.
Yeah.
We deployed it all over Nigeria. We deployed it abroad.
Yeah.
We deployed it in London, in New York, in Jersey, in Boston.
Yeah.
And this is in 1991.
Wow.
So there was no social media.
Yeah,
but we had gotten the buzz out there through the sort of the Niger global circuit, which has always existed. Yeah. So we'd done that, and in universities in Nigeria, we hit people in Nsukka, in Benin, in Jos, in Ibadan, in Ife, and just on the island, and Unilag, and just basically
everywhere
created buzz, right? We had no money, no nothing. Just put the buzz out there. Just the confidence that something might just happen.
Might as well.
Man, but you know what? If you've ever been a promoter, first night, it's pure panic, right?
Yeah.
So we're sitting there. It's 9 p.m. Nobody's there. So
that's in the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Chinese manager's there insulting us
like,
already.
Why did I give these
idiots my venue, and I could have been at home taking my wife for dinner? It was just that kind of thing.
Yeah, every promoter who's ever been there knows it. When you first starting out too. That's how it goes.
So this is like 10:30.
Yeah. And Nigerians are late.
Wait, man. 10:30, there's mayhem. Yeah. The guys downstairs are saying, "Sir, we have a problem." So what's the problem? So there's too many people here. And the building only had like one lift, right?
Oh, let's take all this.
So I can tell you that by midnight, there was 1,000 people in the club. Wow. How the hell they all got up on that lift, I have no idea. Jeez. But we're blocking people, stopping people, letting people in. It was 50 naira to get in the club, which was
50 naira.
50 naira was big money.
Back then.
Bro, big money. 50 naira was like, we made enough money the first night.
Wait, 50 naira was almost like almost $50.
Like $5. No, like $5.
Okay.
Something like, it was like 10 to 1.
Happened back then. Okay.
Yeah. Things have happened, right? So this is Babangida's era. But, so what basically happens is that, let's say, my guys who are working in the bank or whatever are earning probably $30K a month. Yeah.
Wow.
As like a junior, not a manager, but in 91, 30K in one of the new generation banks. So these banks have just started. Yeah. People don't even sure if the banks are going to exist after like a year. If you're getting 30, 35K, you're doing well. The first night, we get like 300K.
Woo!
So we're like, woo! You know what I'm saying? We're like, hey, I ain't going to work in the bank. I'm like, I could do this.
Yeah. I always tell people, because I do promotions too.
Yeah.
Right? And I always tell people, I was like, the minute you make that in a night, I hear like,
it doesn't really make sense.
How much did y'all make a year again? And I'm not even saying that we're better than y'all, but I'm just saying to you, but I enjoy doing this.
This is it.
But not every night is like that, though.
No, not at all. Yeah. Not at all. Yeah. The run only ran for about 3 months, right?
Yeah.
But it's still historical. It's 30 years this year.
Yeah.
And the Dragon, and a lot of the people in the Dragon are still alive. It's like a lot of things that came out of the Dragon is kind of what it's kind of like pushed into the movement. Because from the Dragon, we're doing.
The Dragon would almost be like New York's tunnel.
Not quite. It wasn't that great. It was upscale because it's the island. We were already on the island side. So if we had been in Ikeja or Nigeria, we could have been in the tunnel. So we're more like an upscale movement on the island. But then what happens is we're connecting because of Jimmy and all these other guys are connecting back to the streets and the sound and what's coming, right? And in doing that, we had already started. I had relationships with artists from the UK. So in '88. There's a crew called Mighty Ethnics who are rappers in Labra Grove who I used to mess with, right? And even after in '87, my 18th birthday, '86, I went to do the Cold Cut remix of Eric B and Rakim, right? Their #1 record, right? The guys who remixed are a bunch of DJs who I went and did a little course with. So I'm in this thing, and I'm at university, and then we brought Public Enemy and Russell Simmons to the UK in '89. So that was our first big splash, right? Yeah. And it didn't work out. But, I mean, I'm sitting there with Public Enemy, Flav, Third Base, you know, Tribe Called Quest, the biggest black bands in the world, Russell Simmons and Leo Cole, you know, Def Jam and Rush Artist Management. You know, I think Russell even offered me a job you know, to come to New York. And I was like, man, you know, this thing. But I'm like, no, I'm going to Lagos, right? So I come to Lagos. And I wait for one of my guys for a whole year to come back before we could do the club thing. Yeah. I needed somebody who really understood what I was talking about. Yeah. I had an older guy who was one of my guys who came in with us and he had a bit of cash. We didn't have jack. Yeah. So like, bro, man, he was like the cash flow. Yeah. I think of my old man. And then Olisa, who was my cousin, he was around. He was on TV. He was doing like a video show on NCA2 Channel 5. Okay. And, you know, imagine you have your friend doing this video show and I'm trying to argue with him to play hip hop. Yeah. Nah, man, don't play that stuff. Play this. Yeah. Don't bring videos every day to just funnel onto the thing. And from the club and all of that, we started doing like a situation where we would let MCs come and freestyle. Yeah. Right? On the beat, on the first part of the club, where Howie T and where Jimmy was DJing, right? And then Jimmy had started doing something called the jump off. Not even the jump off. There was a name for it. I can't remember the name right now. Even really early, like 92. And there was a TV station called Clapperboard, right? Which was the first independent TV station.
Yeah, here. So it's called Clapperboard?
Yeah, Clapperboard TV.
Okay.
So Clapperboard TV started like 92. Okay. And the guy who was behind Clapperboard bought a company called Premier Records. Okay. And Premier Records was Polygram. That's a major label, yeah? So they were now pushing heavy. And we pitched a program to them, a couple of programs, and they liked them. Right. Okay. One was called Clapperboard Weekend Raps. Clapperboard Weekend Raps, Jimmy was the DJ on the show. Yeah. Right? The show used to go out on Saturdays, 12 noon. And what used to happen is there were already no producers in Nigeria back then. So Jimmy would just come with the instrumentals and chop them up, right? And the presenter was a young kid called A-Block, who was a rapper from a crew called Troubadours. Yeah. A-Block is a multi-millionaire in London now. Wow. 30 years later, yeah, for real. So he was the host. And then people used to come through every week and they sort of contest off camera to be on camera. Yeah. So you audition off camera to be on camera. Everybody came. I mean, that's the first time I ever met Daddy Shoki. Daddy Shoki was a rapper in a crew called Pretty Busy Crew. Wow. Yeah, man. I'm telling Shoki, man, I'm not really sure about, you know, but his energy, man, it was like, okay, but he wasn't really rapping, you know? And then if I think about it, but then there are these kids that came, and there's something about them, but they're rapping in these American accents, and it just wasn't making any sense to me. And there were three of them. Stickman was one guy. He was the dancer, probably the best dancer I've ever seen. And I'm counting Michael Jackson and Usher and Chris Brown and all of that. Yeah. This guy was, I don't think he's alive anymore, but that guy was like a whole different conversation. Yeah. And I was really into the dancing thing at the time. So, I mean, he was dancing unbelievably. Then the other two guys were rapping. So I had a word with them after the set. I'm like, guys, man, I can't really put you on because I'm not feeling this American accent thing. It's just not.
Not vibing.
Yeah, it's like, it's forced, you know, and it doesn't sound real. Have you guys thought about maybe doing this thing in Pidgin, right? And they're like, boss, you know, that's not really. I say, yeah, but listen, you're Nigerian or Mushin. If you rap about that and Cutlass is gonna.
And that's where they were from.
Yeah, I said, well, they're Igbo boys, but that's where they were living. I said, listen, man, if you rap about that, rather than
it's more relatable.
Yeah, but AK-47 you've never seen. I mean, come on, you know. I mean, you know, because guys are rapping about busting gats and they never seen a gat.
Like, well, you never seen a gat before.
B. Never seen a gat. So why are you talking about that, right? Talk about the wahala of getting to getting the downfall and the motorway. Yeah, talk about what you live every day. Joke like joke. We used to shoot maybe once a month. I don't even know how. I can't remember. Once a week. And these guys came back like the next time we were shooting. They came back ready. When I say they came back ready, by the time they were doing the warm-up, they had already scattered the whole place. I mean, to the extent that everybody there was like, oh, whoa. Then they got on stage. We're like, okay, going to perform. Then, I mean, from there, it was just a rap. It was like, okay, the game has changed. I mean, we watched it happen right there. That was Junior and Pretty. Wow. Those guys, man, they came out on stage and they're doing these things. I'm just like, my goodness. And, you know, Junior's late now, but I tell you, When I listen to stand-up comedians in Nigeria, I listen to Afrobeats in Nigeria, and you go back and I play you Junior Pretty first album, 1992, Fufu Flavor, My Ghanaian Lover, PYT, Monica. It's a straight line, right? Because they were really coming in as rappers. Yeah? And then they just found the way to do this thing on these beats. They constructed these songs over like a week or two. And then we decided after that, man, this is a rap. I'd actually recorded a full album with another artist. I said to him, bro, you got to chill. These guys.
That's what you need to
No, seriously, we went straight into the studio with them. And that was that.
So what do you think it was about back then, during that time period, up until maybe the 2000s? Why were Nigerians, or it seemed like Nigerians were more interested in things coming from the West or America or the UK? What was that transition to like, oh no, we love our own music. We like our own music.
Well, that's an intentional journey that probably people haven't talked about that much. I mean, I think also we had to find your foot. And you have to find your foot. And self-confidence and self-realization is a journey, right? So I think in the early 90s, I mean, hey, the music coming out of the States was incredible. Bad boy, hip-hop, that whole culture took the world, right? Yeah, 100%. It took the world. I mean, I was already deep in that from 10 years before, so I just continued. But our music as well was beginning to evolve, and it was affected by hip-hop as well. So SWAT Root, Remedies, all these guys following on from what Junior and Pretty are doing. And then, Baba Frayo, other guys you start to hear 96, 97. Then, Plantation Boys, you begin to hear this attitude, this vocal attitude that's coming into our music, and the production level begins to change. Now, through that whole period, then by late 98, Kenny and Kenneth's music began to really become really important. And, they brought a lot to the table because these guys are in front of the camera, not behind the camera. Like people like me. I mean, nobody ever knew me. But people like them are on TV, on radio, giving it large every single day and just living larger than life, pushing larger than life attitude behind the energy of the music, and that began to give people confidence, right? And the confidence that this thing they're doing has some value,
some legs.
Because the thing about it is, but we were still dealing with that disconnect, right? Where the Nigerian elites was looking down at its own stuff, right? And I like to say, I think we were my generation were very instrumental, me specifically, in breaking that. Because we did something called Storm 45 with my brother Ahmed at 11:45, which was like the number one club in probably 2005. And probably that's probably part of the breaking point. Because up till then, people on the island are saying, who are those people? Who are those people? Yeah? And I'm like, man, forget all that nonsense. End of the day, and I remember telling them, I said, end of the day, all this nightlife, all this stuff will be based on these people. Because they are the actual truth. You're just living in their world. That's really what it is. And when they begin to understand that, and everybody begins to understand, you will now realize that all these false barriers are broken, and frankly, they've all gone now. I don't think anybody's thinking anybody on the island is better than anybody on the mainland. Yeah, I understand. Whereas in 2004, 5,
it was still.
I mean, hey, you might not even get in. They'll lock you out. Who are you? We don't know you. You understand? Wow. Yeah. It was cold on the island. It's cold on the island. It wasn't all access. No.
So let's talk about the business side of things, right? It seems like you never did business school or any of that, right?
No.
So then you're a founder of Storm 360. You now have a label. You're signing artists. Are you forming a team together from a management side of things that help you with all these tasks?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, listen.
The reason why I ask this is sometimes you see labels just get started, but there's no really business fundamentals behind it. So how did you transition from being the promoter, the DJ, person who's on the streets, who has the ear to the streets, to now going to the boardroom?
I think it's painful, man. It's a journey and it's painful. I mean, first of all, we stepped out of the whole thing for maybe like 10 years, right? And then we came back.
Why did you step out?
Well, I just felt like by 2003, I'm like, this thing's just not going to pay, man. It's just like, man, I'm really going to do my life doing this. I better go face oil and gas or something, And so I sort of stepped out of it, but always stayed connected to it, And probably by about 2000, 2001, I'm like, man, this sound is beginning to
bubble.
Yeah, And by 2004, I really was convinced. And I think, the marker moment for me to come back in is also finding people I could work with, right? So, Tola Odunsi, one of the things that happens is I didn't even really have a plan to come and be doing it back again. But, Dare, was kind of like our guy, right? And he was going for Project Fame, South Africa.
Yeah.
So before he went, I was like, man, invest a little money and put him in the studio. We recorded like 6 tracks. Because I just said to him before, I said, I think you're gonna win this thing. Yeah. Even if you don't win it, you're gonna be the top 3.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I just feel. And they're probably gonna offer you a record deal, but maybe let's just be ready so that when you come out, we got stuff ready. Even though the stuff hasn't been put out, right? So we recorded 6 tracks. We even shot a video before he went, right? A track, which is not really his track. It was really LD's track, but I don't know, they sorted it out.
Yeah.
And he went to SA for the show, and he was doing his thing. He probably should have won, but I think he had an incident like a week before the end. I can't remember what happened, but things happen that affect you. So when I got to SA just before the end, right? And I saw this young guy who was close marking the whole situation. I'm like, who's he? he was there like working for a brand who was interested in doing something with Dare.
Yeah.
And that was Tola. So, and in that process, I got to know him, and I was like, bro, instead of doing this thing, the brand, why don't you just come and do it with us? Yeah. You understand?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what happened. And he really drove the talent for Storm 360. Music talent. And sort of the A&Ring them, helping them, guiding them with the producers, the vibe. I mean, a lot of NATO C stuff is interpreting Tola's lifestyle, right? Because, and that was part of NATO's genius, is his writing and being able to just take on board the stuff and then bring it back out,
Regurgitate it.
Yeah, but, well, not regurgitate because it's never even been communicated before. Yeah. It's just to make you feel it, right? My P. Yeah, all these things are like Tola's phrases, that he's just, what's the P, man? What are we doing today? So these things become part of the lexicon. Slangs. Yes, boss. Yeah. Yes, boss. Yeah. And that's NATO C. Yeah. You understand? Kenny, big deal. I still remember the day they brought me the record. They recorded like 45 tracks for NATO's first album. We recorded like 45 tracks.
In the studio?
Yeah, man, with T.Y. Mix and VC Perez.
How did you meet NATO, though?
NATO is family to me. Okay. NATO's family to me. Yeah. I knew NATO from the day he was born. But you know how it is when it's family, sometimes it's harder for family, right?
It really is. Yeah, to convince families to take you seriously.
Exactly. So he was coming at me, and I was like, man, come on, man.
Here we go.
Come on. And I tried to put him on a record. I remember, like, the year before I actually did the thing, I was like, man, let me introduce you to Dare, and Jazzman, the real artists.
Oh, my God.
But I was literally, that was my attitude, And him and Ike Chukwu are like, are you kidding me? But it was just because I'm like, listen, the transition, right, from being an American kid in college in the States to coming to Lagos to represent the streets, you got to be able to work it out, and he did eventually. And once he did, and he found his spot, game over.
Wow. So during that period, I think there was this wave of Nigerians in the diaspora who were looking to come back. You're talking Sauce Kid, you're talking Ike Chukwu, you're talking NATO. What would you say is, because it seems like we're people who live on the bridge, right? And what I mean by the bridge is we have the whole idea of being an Afropolitan is you have 2 sets of identities that straddle both sides, right? And
the duality, man.
The duality, right? And it always seemed from, at least back then, I don't know if what people struggle now, but back then people didn't know which identity to claim because you were never Nigerian enough when you came back home, and you were never American enough when you were over there. So it was almost like, which side should I claim more? And I think one of my guys, his name is Kelechi, he just says, I'm 200% Nigerian, or 200% Nigerian American. Basically saying 100% Nigerian, 100% American, I don't have to choose. That's his own way of dealing with it. But in that transition, it seemed like there was the music that they were making, because sometimes they would have that ears towards the American side. But then when Kenny Big Deal comes out, it just felt very organic.
Yeah.
What would you say is that, because a lot of artists on the American side who are Nigerians still struggle with that identity crisis. How do you advise them to navigate that?
Well, the thing is, this is like, I mean, I think it's all about how you're raised, and I think the thing about the identity issue, I think, is just to embrace all elements of your identity. That's always the best way. If you embrace all elements of your identity, you give everybody the best of yourself, right? Yeah. So, and there's no negativity in any part of your identity, either the American side or the Nigerian side. It's just that when you're talking to, I mean, what we specifically said to NATO, I said, NATO, there's 10 million rappers in America, right? 10 million rappers plus on every street corner. And you're a great rapper, not a good rapper. But that still doesn't mean that you're really going to pop. But I don't know if there's 10 million great rappers in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I don't know that anybody's representing anybody. So you can step up right now today and be one of the guys.
Yeah.
If once you speak for them, you know, because music is also about audience, right? It's also about what you're saying. So if you don't speak for me, which means you're speaking to me in language I represent and understand, then you don't care about me.
Yeah.
So when you connect to me and you speak for me in that manner, then hey, I can ride with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he was able to do.
Yeah.
And that's what all the guys that have been successful have been able to do, is tap into the natural audience that's there waiting for you and take them with you on the journey.
Yeah.
So wherever you go, we're Niger, 100%.
They're with you.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm 100% Niger, but when we walk into New York, we're home too.
Yeah.
We walk into London, so I think we're global Africans, right? So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I see black. I don't even, but like, you know, if I see 10 black people anywhere in the world, I'll count out the Nigerians for you. Thank you. You know how it is.
Easy. So let's talk about the role of soft power then, and I wanted to tie this. I don't know if you saw. I think there was in South Korea, the government is funding the creative industries by investing at least $100 million in the industry. You've heard about acts like BTS, and they have a huge creative fund over there because they've recognized the value of their soft power and how it can help give them relevance across the world. What is it about soft power not translating as well across the African continent? Because I mean, look at like I think we're talking. One of the biggest sector in Nigeria is really our creative industry, and it has the least investment. You know?
Well, I think the thing is this. I think it's a journey, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I'm a convener of the Africa Soft Power Project. And, you know, that's really what the platform's about. Yeah. It's about stimulating conversations and stimulating actions to drive more investment into these sectors. Yeah. And then another thing that I do, I lead the technical working group that works on this sector, the creative economy and the cultural industries for the Nigeria Agenda 50, which is already about how do we grow the sector. Now, one of the things we've seen and from the data we looked at is that no matter what happens, if government steps in and does what we hope government will do, then great. If they don't,
they have to move.
Yeah, so this sector will be a $100 billion contribution to this Nigerian economy by 2030. Yeah. Period. Yeah. Now, if government steps up and enables the way we would love them to, it could be $250 billion. Yeah. It could double, right? Yeah. And for that to happen, that means government makes serious key decisions in upskilling people, because I think that's a really key thing. If you upskill 10 million Nigerians with digital skills, what they can unlock in terms of innovation and solutions and technology and platforms, I don't even think, you come out of that world, I don't think we've even scratched the surface. So that's one thing right there. The second thing is I agree with you that the creative industries, well, I'll tweak it like this. I think the largest asset Nigeria has is Nigerians. Yeah. Okay? That's the human resource, the human capital of Nigerians. That's much more valuable than our oil or our gas or any mineral resource. And if we mine our human capital properly, then we can solve every single problem. The key thing for me is that I think and I hope is that the younger generation can focus on problem solving, not talking about the problems. Because my generation has done a lot of talking about problems. That's kind of like the fatalistic Nigerian thing. You wake up in the morning, Wahala is killing us, But meanwhile, if you actually ideate your way out of the situation and have conversations about the elephants in the room, then actually you might find that what you think is a problem is an opportunity. Yeah. So I think Nigeria is really on the cusp of enormous opportunity. Yeah. And, normally when you're coming through that, you're going through stresses. Yeah. So these are normal growth stresses that I see. But of course, it's difficult because you need to sort out social welfare. You need to sort out institutional reforms that will sort out security and all these other things. And for soft power to really thrive, you need to connect it to hard power, which is the hard infrastructure of power, of facilities that are functioning, of platforms that function. If you do that, I don't think anything can stop Nigeria. I think the Nigerians and their talents have already proven themselves. You know, I look at it like show business, right? So if you think that the last 10 years has been about validating the show.
It's a proof of concept first.
Yeah. So I think that's done.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's arguing about...
Now it's too late.
Yeah, if you want to argue about the validity of Nigerian food or fashion or dance, you're on your own.
Yeah.
But now if we want to talk about how can we monetize what we do...
Scale up.
Thank you. How do we get a situation where all these black kids doing dance challenges on social media get paid?
Yeah.
How? Because that's our culture, right? That's black DNA. Every single day, somebody's getting paid on somebody else's platform. The platforms are getting paid off us.
Yeah.
How do we get paid?
Yeah.
Is it the NFT solution? Is there an AI plug? These are the things. And for me, the exciting thing is that our own people who are not just part of our DNA, but part of our rhythm, our culture, our dance, our ethos, are also now having the skills to help us prefer solutions.
Yeah,
because before
the platforms.
Yeah, before we were never in there, right? It's just about like now, hey, Spotify and Apple Music are here. Where's the African answer? It's like people talk about colonization. We've been digitally colonized already, but we're not even paying attention.
Yeah.
So these are things that I am concerned about because I see it already, right? But at the same time, I think that in terms of opportunity, I wish I was 20 years younger because it's so exciting because technology has enabled people to be global on day one. Yeah. But I think we should really also remember to be hyper-local because I think one of the things you said at the beginning, and that's the thing you really need to think about, is our biggest market and our biggest opportunity is actually Nigeria. Yeah. For everything. Yeah. For everything.
One of the things we like to say on the podcast is product is merits and distribution is connections.
Well, this is it. If you can sort out, I tell you something just to speak to that. I mean, if as we're sitting here with all the brands and power influencers that have been created in the last 10 years in Nigeria, who clearly have over 1 billion followers between them, but we don't have product for them, right? But we have Aba and we have Onitsha. Yeah. We have these places where we can create product. So what we need to do is create a bridge of trust. Yeah. So that those talents...
Merge hard power with soft power.
Thank you. And if you merge that, you're talking another $100 billion. Yeah. And those are the kind of things that I'm looking at. Those are the bridges we need to build. Yeah. Because then, you guys that have the platforms, you need to have the guys who can actually make the product. And then you deliver fulfillment, right? If we can get these things, and I don't think these things are rocket science.
They're not insurmountable, no.
Yeah. And so I think that in our case, instead of in our generation, we didn't look at these things that way. Right? Yeah. I think the younger generation looks at these things and thinks, okay, I can solve that. This is a solvable problem, right? And if I solve that problem, it's going to create an ecosystem that's going to allow everybody to feed. Yeah. And I think that's the real thing to look at. It's like with AFTCA having come, what does that really do for us, right? What does that really do for Nigerian food, Nigerian fashion, Nigerian, there's so much, right? And this is just in AFTCA. In Nigeria, there's so much. If you've watched carefully in the last 5 years, you must have seen the step up in the way in which we are presenting our food. Yeah. Nigerian restaurants and cuisine. Yeah. I believe that Nigerian cuisine is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
I believe it too.
That is just beginning to globalize. I believe it too. It's just beginning. It hasn't even started. Yeah. So if you think, people talk to me about the music, I'm like, the music, the movies, the comedy, but the fashion, the food, the dance. Yeah. See these 5 things? I haven't even talked about the art, right? What else is there? Those 6, those 6 are enough
industries.
Yeah, and then you talk about the literature, right? And then if you bring it all back and flip it again to the esports, the gaming, architecture, technology, software, coding. So, I mean, for me, Nigerians and Nigeria, there are 2 ways to look at it. Yeah. Half empty, half full. I think, personally, I think it's all just starting. Yeah. People think, Flutterwave. I'm like, they just started. What are you going to say about them in 5 years? Yeah. What you going to say 10 years. Or 10 years, do you understand? So that's them. What about the other 20 that you don't know about that are working in different corners and silos in this country trying to solve a problem? Yeah. Anybody, look, if we become a nation of problem solvers, we will all do better. Yeah.
So let's talk about the process of reinvention for an artist or evolution for an artist and maybe even for in the industry, because sometimes it feels like innovations happen and some artists don't keep up with the times. what would be your advice to an artist on how to at least stay ahead of the curve? And I know when we started the conversation, we were talking about Jay-Z. It seems like he's always had that ability to reinvent himself for every era, right? What does that process look like in the Afrobeats sector? Reason also being, we were also talking about the issue where you have some Gen Z people who might not know artists who came prior.
Yeah.
And these are like 5, 6, 7, 8 years removed. So it's not 30, 40 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So what is that process of maintaining that relevance or reinventing yourself for a new era?
Well, man, it's so hard these days,
hard,
right? Especially with the sort of TikToks and trailers and the way in which people consume content. There's so much more they're consuming. Also, the fact of the matter is that the style of content has changed, right? So this short chop content that all the kids
seconds,
that the kids are loving. So I think the first thing is that, and that's where people like Jay-Z win. You got to stay authentic to yourself.
Yeah.
So any blue chip brand, right, who's going to last in this thing cannot be somebody or something that follows trends. If you're following the trend, you're not relevant. Yeah. So you got to set the trend, or you just ignore the trends, right? Because you're at a particular level where you have a certain amount of fan base and fans, and then whenever you speak to them in terms of content releases and the rest, you're very intentional and very specific, so they understand what's going on. Yeah. So I think, certain artists, Jay's not on social media, so he's not checking for that. But I can assure you today, if he announces a tour tomorrow, he's going to sell out every single ticket in an hour. Yeah. So it's also about understanding that social is not everything. For example, for most talents, they can't over-promote on their social pages. If they do that, they get less engagement because human beings that's not the reason they're on your page. If they wanted to be on your page for promotion, they go to the fan page, right? So that's not why they're on your page. They just want to engage and feel at some point in time they're connected to you. So, but in terms of reinvention and things that are natural, I think there's a lot that artists can do. And a lot of that is to do with continuing education, and in this day and age, that means that if you're an artist and you really have a big, successful artist, you're already a digital nation, right? So you have a lot of extensions from merchandise, from, products, from touring, from gaming, you can do a lot of different things and you can do a lot of different kinds of projects and have a big impact. The question is to have a good team. The most important thing is the management. Nobody should think for a second that any artist is doing it by themselves. I don't care whether it's Jay-Z or Beyonce.
Do you feel like more artists should view themselves as entities, like you're an LLC?
Well, at a particular level, you have to. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, if you're Davido or Burner or something, you're an LLC. You're significant. You're a significant enterprise, and you need to be managed in that manner, like a gold brand. A blue chip brand is managed a particular manner, and that's what needs to happen with the premium artists. And even with artists who are trying to become premium, it is the level of your management that's going to cross you over. It's not going to be necessarily the level of your artistry. It might be the level of your management, the person that's doing your deals, plugging you into the right conversations, making sure you're in the right rooms. That is almost more important than having the hottest song. Because you can have the hottest song, but nobody knows your story. Nobody knows your journey. Nobody's really connected to your ethos. Therefore, you're just going to be a one-hit wonder. Definitely. The artists who have built long-term following have a certain vulnerability and connection they've shared with their fan base, which is what is keeping the fan base engaged, not just the arts that they're releasing. So I think it's that combination of factors, but there's no easy answer to it. There are no two Jay-Z's. There are no two, how many artists have done 30 years at the top? I can't think of two, right? But in terms of people who have aged naturally and done a clever transition through the different stages, Jay, of course. Nas has done it very well. A number of them in the mature hip-hoppers have done it well. I mean, look at the Isley brothers, 50 years of chart hits. Ronald Isley, 28 platinum albums. That's just ridiculous, right? So it's about consistency. It's about execution. It's about being professional. It's about being humble, right? Because greatness doesn't shout, right? It just is humble,
Let's talk about, we had Issa on the pod, right? And he talks about how his dad took him to come meet you. Seeing his journey and seeing how far Afrobeats has also come, what do you first of all, how was it like? Obviously, you're super proud of him.
Yeah.
But what do you think of his own journey and in that space with David? Because these were young kids, right? Like you're talking about maybe 18, 19, 20. And to see how far they've come.
They were just making noise, man.
Yeah. They were just...
No, listen, look, it's a dream.
Yeah.
And I'm just proud of them. I mean, what can you do but be proud?
Yeah.
You know, nobody can give it to them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like nobody can give it to you. Asa's journey is incredible.
Yeah.
Proud of him. Proud of the way they're managing themselves. Him and Bizzle met in my office, right? Yeah. They're both working there together.
We have Bizzle on the pod too.
Yeah. I mean, so these are my sons, right? Yeah. And I've seen it. And the thing about it is, what people don't understand is the hours that you have to put in.
10,000 plus.
The hours you have to put in. You can't fake it. You got to wake up for that show the next day. You got to be on that flight. You have to be on top of it. You have to look after your artist. You have to protect the artist.
Yeah.
You have to protect that asset. So I'm proud of them, what they've built with David. David's also shown people the power of hard work. Because, you know, one thing people need to understand is you can't buy success. Yeah. People will say, I said, no, man. You don't get to be David because of anything except David. Yeah. You know, so that talent, that power, that personality, that vocal tone, that ability to just keep bringing it, that is what makes these guys work. And that's something that, I mean, you know, I've seen them, you know, I mean, Afro Nation and O2, I've seen these guys, and I'm like, man, this is
what did this feel like watching David at O2? Unbelievable. I mean, just thinking about where he's come from to where he is. Yeah. It's emotional. I mean, I don't care what anybody tells me. We're sitting in the O2, and before Wizkid comes on, I'm hearing all the records from our era. Yeah. It's emotional. I'm calling the artists. Yeah. I'm calling P Square, said you should be here. Yeah. You know you can still sell out these places. Yeah. Flavor, you can sell out these places, right? You understand? Timaya, they can sell out these places. Two-Face, any day of the week. You understand? And that's the power of what we have already built and already did. And that to me, like you said, is a story that's not really probably been told. And we need to document it.
It's coming. My brother Ayosh and I did a great little documentary, Afrobeats backstory. Oh, you've been talking to everybody already.
Oh, no. So the thing for me is I've been an avid student, right? But it always felt, especially when I'm in California, I'm in America, you're not always fully connected to the scene, right? So what my role, what I see our role as Afropolitan is not just documenting the history, but talking to the people who made the history. Right. So that when people can go back, because the thing about media too is, I read, I'm a huge reader, right? But it might not be the best way for people to connect to the history. Maybe people don't want to go read the books. Yeah. But if they hear the podcast, if they hear the audio, they can maybe connect better. Right?
Yeah, so I understand.
It's understanding of that makes me be like, yo, we need to talk to the people so people know where we came from in order to know where we're going.
100%. Man. I mean, listen, I think it's a great thing. I mean, and one of the things about it is just to understand that the key element in this whole thing was understanding and feeling and seeing when people didn't see that we had value. Yeah. You see, that's the thing, because I think that the biggest thing we did with Afrobeats was to give our people self-confidence. Yes. And in that manner, I take credit with Afrobeats, on behalf of Afrobeats, I take credit for everything positive that's happened since then. Yeah. Because the fintech community, all those spaces, for me, it's coming from that energy.
I agree.
That energy was the energy that we come out and we say, you know what?
We're here.
We're here. We can't be beaten.
Any room.
We can't be stopped.
To be in any room.
Thank you. If you let us in the room, we will dominate.
It's a problem.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the classic. Yeah. The story I'll end with is this: is like 2004-05. I'm in Joburg at the Channel O Awards, and you know, a late friend of mine who was then the GM, he's cracking jokes with me about how the Nigerians were not really at this thing. You know, Obi Kwaito is dominating. You know, where's the Nigerian sound? And I'm like, we're not even paying attention to the Kwaito, bro. I mean, you know, no disrespect. I mean, I love my South African brothers. Anybody's listening, I'm like, bro, man, hey, that's not really. We're on a different tempo. We're 98 beats a minute. You guys are doing this house thing. You know, I said, but I'm telling you, but we're gonna come. Yeah. So we'll be in touch. You know, unfortunately he passed, but I tell you what, that was like 04, 06. Yeah. 06 Channel O Awards. I think there were 19 categories. 17 were won by Nigerians.
Jeez.
took the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that night, you know. And it's like, as the band's first international win, that's Don Jazzy's first international, Two-Face. Literally, just right before that, maybe MTV had just given Two-Face an award, right? And it's in Joburg. And I'm there, sitting there with all the Joburg execs, who are CEO of Sony, Universal, big labels, all the continental leads. Yeah. They didn't win any single award. Yeah. This bunch of independent kids came from Lagos and collected the whole thing. And you know what? We haven't let it go since.
Let it go.
No, we haven't let it go.
We're also still getting started.
No, we haven't go because people like me, we were coming with an attitude and a focus that it wasn't about my label or my company. It was about Niger. Yeah. So we did the whole original Niger for life, 100% Niger. We just pushed that whole agenda and pushed everybody. So whether it's Two-Face, Mo Hits, you know, Style Plus, we were actually pushing all of them, promoting all of them, and trying to enable all of them. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to get this guy that I'm not going to get.
Yeah, winning.
We're bringing everybody. Yeah. I think we must have put 150 artists, between Tola and I, 150 artists on Channel O from Nigeria, right, who had never been seen outside Nigeria. And you can imagine, if you haven't even been on Nigerian TV, and then suddenly your stuff is coming from Joburg, even if it's not money, it gives you a sense of affirmation, a sense of, oh, this thing I'm doing, and then suddenly I got fans, and somebody in Namibia sending you a message going, please, I love you. Listen, man, it changed a lot of people's lives. Yeah. And that, for me, is as good a feeling as anything else. Definitely. Because when you look at it now, and you look today, and you say, man, you know, because I tell you what, our people are special. Yeah. And nobody told them that. You know, somebody needed to let them know that, you know something? Yeah. This thing you're doing.
Special.
World class, and it's real, and it's authentic, and you don't need to be defensive about it. And then that was my energy, and it always is my energy, and that's really whether it's our music, our movies, our fashion, our food. Yeah, it's about let's not be, because we're very fond of being negative on ourselves, right? It's a very Nigerian thing, but actually, our flavor is the flavor that everybody wants. Dope. It's not just that it's dope. Everybody wants it. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So, hey, man, let's give it to them. Yeah. You understand? Yeah. And that's why I think that the upside of what is coming ahead is just unbelievable. I mean, if you look at this thing that, I mean, you know, I don't know if you've seen it. Google Arts just did a whole thing called Echo for Show. They put it out on Wednesday. You need to check it out. I mean, literally, when I see that, I'm like, this journey was worth it. Yeah. Because that's exactly what this is about. Yeah. The creative power of Nigerians is
unlocked globally.
No, totally. You know, when I was growing up, Nigerians were not claiming Nigeria. Yeah, true. You know, people were saying, oh, I'm black British.
Yep, I'm black British.
My name is David. Dio becomes David.
My name is Ben. You know what I'm saying? Go back Benga though.
Exactly, man. You know, look at this guy like, bro, is that not a Kaduri sign on your, you know?
Oh man.
So that evolution, we've seen it.
We've seen it. Yeah? We have.
Sade and Seal not being sure about that. You know, I'm like, guys, man, you're about people. Just leave this matter. Right. You know. So I think that, and you know, this whole thing also about this, you know, your progressive community as well is that, you know, people, right? And black people need to be bound by other things except negativity. Yeah. We have a lot of negative reasons to be bound because of slavery, the inherent... And don't forget, black people on both sides of the Atlantic have unresolved trauma because of slavery, right? And those things have not been unpacked. Yeah. It's like the Nigerian Civil War. Yeah. There's unresolved trauma, right? Which is why Igbo people come across... Thank you. Igbo people can come across as very aggressive and abrasive, but actually... It's a cry for help. Yeah. It's a cry to be seen, understand my pain, right? And this whole thing is because when we were raised up, we were taught not to talk about these things, and people internalize them, right? Yeah. And then it affects them later. Whereas I find that when you bring it out, there are no more elephants in the room. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, who you're afraid of that you can't talk about anything. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if you can't talk, you're already in a war situation, right? And none of us want that.
Thank you, man. Before we end, can we talk about some of the projects that you've been working on recently? Like, are you free to share?
Yeah, sure, man. I mean, you know, I'm excited about a bunch of stuff. I mean, you know, I'm hoping that I'm going to be doing something really exciting with Bedu. which is something I'm really excited about what they're doing. There's a project that I'm working on with Jimmy Jan called Afrobeats Evolution that I think that could be. I mean, for me, that's just a joyful project. Not even. I mean, whatever it does.
Yeah.
But just to bring it alive,
Yeah.
And perhaps, one of my most important things right now is after a long journey, my father died in 2004. So that's 17 years ago.
He rest in peace.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Since he passed, at the time I was discussing with family and, am I going to commemorate my father? What am I going to do? And then even my mother, who passed in 2015, and she was like always, in my head, we should do this, let's do this, let's do that. And she inspired me. And after when she passed, it even pushed me maybe even further. So I've finally been able to open a creative hub, and which is also a museum, and also like co-working spaces and an innovation hub in Onitsha. Yeah, my grandmother's house. And my parents are buried there, so obviously it's sacred ground for me. Yeah. But it's a place for storytellers, for innovators, and for people who are interested in ideating the future. So, and we hope to have a big impact because obviously Onitsha is a big place. Change conversation, want to bring a different kind of energy, and also speak to the world. Because one of the things I feel about Nigeria is that a lot of times people don't see other parts of Nigeria. It doesn't seem discoverable. They can't touch it. So Ibaje, which is what it's called, hopefully will make it closer, more connected, and give people the chance to see into not just the culture, but the hearts, minds, and souls of the people.
It for most people, Nigeria is still a strange place, even to Nigerians living in Nigeria.
Yeah, because they haven't explored it enough.
If I'm Igbo, my village is in Abia State, but I was born in Enugu. But I've never been to Borno or been to Benue or been to, different places in Nigeria. But how can you imagine yourself? There's this concept of imagined communities, right? Your ability to, when the World Trade Center was hit, Americans in California also identify with Americans in New York. Also with Americans in Texas, saying that we were attacked. Yeah. Versus when in this situation, when you don't necessarily know those places, you don't know those people, it might feel like when even Boko Haram attacks, that's something that's happening over there.
Yeah, well, see, that's a consistent problem in all nations, actually. Yeah, true. Because certainly Boko Haram has been sort of out of sight, so out of mind, right? And that's today in this era. So you can imagine how the Civil War was 50 years ago. True. If you're sitting in Lagos, you don't even know what the hell's going on. Yeah. If you're sitting outside the East, you have no idea. Yeah. Even if you're in Port Harcourt, you really don't have a sense. So that feeling of disassociation is real, right? The question is, it's a function of storytelling. Yeah. It's how are we telling the stories? How are we making them connect? And if we're not telling the stories, why? Yeah. You understand? Yeah. And what I think is that everybody feels and everybody can recognize pain. And everybody can recognize joy.
It's universal.
Right? These are universal feelings, right? Everybody can recognize beauty. Yeah. Right? So we don't need to sort of explain ourselves to ourselves. Yeah. Right? If we are curious people, then we learn about each other. True. If we are travelers, as most Igbo people are, we have no choice but to learn about each other because we travel and we settle all over the world. Yeah. For me, my view on life is that culture is not static. Culture evolves, right along with history. And wherever you go, I take my culture with me and my identity as an Igbo person, but I'm an Igbo man and I'm a Nigerian. You've got to deal with me on both terms. Yeah. And wherever I go, me as a Nigerian, we're Nigerian. So wherever I go, we claim the thing, man. Yeah. It's like, listen, man, I'm in Borno, I'm in Kaduna, I'm in Kano, I'm in Yola. Yeah. It's us. Yeah. When you're on the Buka in these places, it's the same pidgin we're all going to speak. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And one thing I found out as a younger person running around this country, if I'm in a Buka in Kaduna today, or in Warri, or in Port Harcourt, it's the same Nigerians I'm dealing with. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. It's only when people fight over politics and power that they retreat into ethnicity. Yeah. You understand? Yeah. When they're chasing their girlfriends and all these things, they don't remember any of that at all. So it's like, I wish, if there's one thing I wish is that everybody in Nigeria got to experience all of Nigeria. Yeah. Nigeria is a stunning country, probably being mishandled by us, the humans. Gifted this incredible place by God, right? It's an incredible place with incredible flora and fauna, with the rainforest and the desert, with the arable land and the oil and gas and the minerals, and then the human beings.
Yeah.
I mean, we're blessed in so many ways. Our biggest challenge is ourselves.
Yeah.
Not any other thing. That's as far as I'm concerned.
You have to harness it.
Well, the thing is this: when we can get over ourselves, right, and actually align, we don't really have any issues.
Yeah.
The thing is, people always need some level of inspiration and some level of hope, and sometimes it's difficult in Nigeria because people, it's almost like an endless cycle of negativity, right, and that affects everybody.
It does.
But I feel like that energy is not helpful, and anybody can regurgitate that. I'd rather push a different energy.
Yeah.
And I think that the energy that is helpful is to seek to find ways to inspire people and bring those things to the light.
Yeah.
Because when you bring them to the light, you just don't know. So what you were telling me about the conversation we had on Clubhouse, I mean, how would I know that it affected any actions at all?
Yeah.
It was just a conversation, right? But, conversations always have a potential to have an impact.
Yes, they do. Obi, thank you so much for coming to the Afropolitan Podcast.
It's a pleasure, man. All right, man.
Thank
Cheers.
you, Obi.
Thanks.